Hi students, 12th standard computer application chapter 8 forms and files. So in this chapter we are going to discuss about importance of HTML forms in a web application.
Forms and files. Introduction. So HTML forms are very important in collecting data from the user. So the main advantages of form is it is collect information from the user and send it to the server. So here in this chapter we are going to learn about the importance of HTML form in web application and different controls are going to be used in the form in order to collect data from the user in a easy way. Then what are the techniques we use in handling files in PHP, how to manage web-based file system, and what is the necessity of using files forms in web management. Now let us see one by one. So first, forms and files. So already I told form means it is used to collect information from the user and send it to the server. Now check this image. So user registration in PHP with the login form. So here we need to write your username, email ID, password, everything. And then the second image is it is a server page. Here they stored all the data, collected data, ID, name, email, phone number, etc. Then HTML forms. So the main objective of PHP and HTML form controls are to collect data from user. In the web development, user access a website or web pages from a remote client machine and feed data to the server. So here client machine means what we work with the system. Okay, so that is client machine. Server machine means that is overall system, and then these data are collected via HTML form. It controls like a text box, drop down box, radio button, etc. and is sent to the server using server side programming language like PHP. So we know that PHP hypertext preprocessor, it is a scripting language. So by the use of this language we can send the data to the server. So the main work is it collect data from the user and send it to the server machine. Form controls. So control types available in a HTML: text inputs, button, checkbox, radio button, file select, and form tag. So the first one, text input. So it contains a text box and text area controls. And next, button. So button may contain submit button, reset button, cancel button, etc. And checkbox is an important feature is to select more than one value from the HTML form. And next, radio button. It is similar to checkbox, but the difference is in checkbox we can choose only in checkbox we can select many things at a time. In radio button we can select one value at a time. We can choose only one value at a time. For example, in forms they use for sex and what course we need to select. So in that kind of places they used a radio button. Checkbox means it is used to select multiple things. And then next, file select is a best feature to select one file from the local machine to server at a time. Next, form tag. It is used to mention a method. Here we used two method. One is post and another one is get method. And it controls the entire form controls in the HTML document. PHP basic form handling. When the user keys the input data in HTML controls and clicks submit button, the request will be generated and reaches a PHP file which is mentioned in the form tag under the action attributes. So here we used two method. One is post and another one is get method. So this method is an attribute form tag in HTML. Once the data reaches the server, Two PHP variables like post and get collects the data and prepares the response accordingly. Post method, it the input data sent to the server with post method is stored in the request body of the client's HTTP request. So post method is used to send the information to the server, and a get method, the input data sent to the server with the post method via URL address is called as query string. All input data are visible by user after they clicks the submit button. Now let us see the simple example for form handling. So the first example test.html and second one welcome.php. So in HTML they link the welcome.php code. So here just we are going to enter name and email. So in the above example, the HTML file contain two text boxes, that is a name and email, one button and one form tag. The remote server PHP file, that is a welcome.php, is mentioned in the form tag under the action attribute. So here the welcome is defined under the form tag, the attributes action, and here method we used a post method. In welcome.php file, the PHP variable like post and get collects the data and prepares the response accordingly. Eventually, the user will receive the output response in the client machine browser screen. Now, let us see the output of this program. So, this is the output of the program. So, here name Kannan and email and then submit. So, this is for while executing. After click the submit button, when we click a submit button, welcome Kannan, your email address is ubkannan@gmail.com. So like that it produce the data. So here post method it send the data to the server, and get method it just give the it's visible by the user after clicking the submit button. A basic PHP form validation. So validation means it is a process of checking the input data submitted by the user from client machine. So there are two types of validation available in PHP. One is client-side validation, another one is server-side validation. Here client-side validation means the input data validation are performed on a client machine as a web browsers using a client-side scripting languages, scripts like JavaScript, or adding required attributes in HTML input tag. And server-side validation means after the submission of data, validations are performed on the server side using a programming languages like PHP, ASP, the server-side scripting languages or JSP, etc. available in a server machine. Validation rules for HTML input field. So the name is a text box. It must contain letters and white spaces, and email, that is also text input. It must contain at and dot strings, and websites are text input. It must contain a valid URL, and next radio button must be selectable minimum one value, and checkbox must be selectable minimum one value, checkable minimum one value, and drop down menu must be selectable minimum one value. Now let us example form action welcome.php username and name input submit and form closed. So this is an example for client side validation. Here username, so if we didn't type any name, so it displayed this is a required field, that is we need to fill some data in this field. PHP files. File handling is an important activity of all the web application development process. So files are processed for different tasks using the following events, that is PHP open a file, PHP read a file, PHP close a file, and PHP write a file, PHP appending a file, and PHP uploading a file. The first one is PHP open a file. So F open is a system function available in PHP. So it helps to open a file in the server, and it contains two parameters, one for the file and another one specifies in which mode the file should be opened. So here which mode means we used two modes, one is a read and another one is a write. Now see the syntax: file object f open, file name or read or write mode or die error message. So example $myfile. So always the variables begins with a dollar symbol and then f open student.text comma r. So here r means it is a read mode. And next one is a PHP. So example PHP read a file, f read function. It is used to read from an open file. So the file objects come from the f open function. Here see the syntax: f read, file object, file size, file name. So example PHP f read my file, file size a student.text. Next, file close. So f close function is used to close an opened file. It is used to close already existing opened file, and then the file object comes from f open function. Here they see the syntax, and next the example. And last one is PHP write a file. So f write function is used to write a file. See the syntax: f write for my file text and then example. So in this chapter we learnt what is HTML form tags and files, different types of files. Thank you students.